In this chapter, we'll be talking about the physical development of young children. We'll be following in your Essentials book pages 114 to 134. Some of the topics that we'll be discussing include understanding the physical development of infants and toddlers and preschoolers. We'll talk about how to promote gross motor development and how to promote fine motor development. We'll also talk about how to connect children's physical development to the development of the whole child. How their physical development is intertwined with all the other areas of development. What we do know about physical development of young children is that the most rapid time for physical development is between birth and 35 months. We also know that children acquire these physical skills at various paces, so not every child will do the same thing at the same time, even though they are all working on the same skills. We do know about physical development is that infants and toddlers' development occurs from their head to their foot. So because their brain growth is very rapid during the first 3 years of life, of course their head is growing faster than the rest of their body. Eventually that growth slows in proportion to the body growth. But they gain control first over their heads, and then it moves directly down their body, their neck, their trunk, their legs, their feet. Human development also is from the center of the body outward to the extremities. So children are going to gain control over moving their shoulders and their trunk before they're able to control their arms, and especially control all the way out to their fingers to be able to do very meticulous tasks such as using scissors or writing. Physical development and milestones are divided into two components, one being gross motor development, or sometimes you may hear that called large muscle, and then fine motor development, which you also may call or hear called small muscle. Obviously, gross motor refers to the larger parts of the body, like the legs, the arms, the torso, and fine motor refers to those smaller muscles, hands, feet, eyes, even facial expressions. Of course, in the previous slide, I explained that gross motor development includes the larger parts of the body. In Essentials, pages 115 all the way through 127, there's lots of ideas about what are some activities that would promote gross motor development. For your younger infants, it may include helping them gain the ability to roll from back to stomach, or hold their head up, or use their arms and legs to move forward or backward. Often we start working on sitting without assistance during those young infant stages of birth to 8. For your mobile infants, some things that they'll be working on are scooting and crawling, still may be working on sitting or pulling self up to a standing position. Some of these children may walk holding onto furniture and may even begin to walk without assistance. Your toddlers, which are the 18 to 36-month-old children, will be working on things like throwing balls, running, building with blocks, maybe jumping on 2 feet or balancing. And then your preschoolers in the age ranges of 3 to 4 will work on hopping on a foot or walking up and down stairs, alternating feet. They may be able to pedal tricycles or gallop. And then your older preschoolers, the 4 to 5-year-olds, will work on skipping, hitting targets with balls, being able to catch a smaller ball with their hands outstretched, running while pumping their arms, so a more mature run. So some things that you need to think about as far as the environment and activities to promote gross motor development in these children. In the young infant classrooms, it's really important that we provide a safe place and space for them to practice these motor skills. If they're starting to crawl or try to crawl, that maybe we can place things nearby that they might choose to move toward to investigate. Some materials that are really important for us to have in the classroom might be mobiles or squeaky toys, rattles, um, teething rings, building blocks that are hollow and lightweight. Those all will stimulate the child's interest and promote their gross motor skills. For your mobile infants, it's important to provide materials that the children can easily access, like books and large hollow blocks, again, that are lightweight, balls of various size and texture. Push toys are really important, like doll strollers or shopping carts. Materials that the children can pull up to in a safe area. You'll want to also make sure that you are closely observing these children and nearby when they're attempting these tasks, so that you can offer support and be there to quickly assist if they get into a somewhat dangerous situation. Your toddlers obviously need a safe place for opportunity, both indoor and outdoor. Places where they can run and walk and jump and climb are really important. Again, they also need balls, things that they can push and pull, bean bags that they can toss, blocks that they can build with, and we're getting to a point where those blocks don't necessarily have to be hollow, but maybe still somewhat lightweight. You may use riding toys with these children so that they can practice pedaling, opportunities to balance and climb safely. For your preschoolers, it's important, again, that you engage them daily in gross motor activities that are enjoyable and that require them to use their whole body. You want to have this time, morning and afternoon, of an unstructured playtime that allows gross motor activity. It is also really important for you to remember that you are the child's role model, and so you should participate in these motor activities with the children, joining in dancing, running on the playground, throwing ball back and forth with the children. You want to make sure that they have places that they can practice crawling and skipping and jumping. Preferably they would go outside every day, but if weather is not permitting, then that there would be either a way to do gross motor in your classroom, or if you were fortunate enough to have a gym or a gross motor room, that you could use that time there. It is really important for you to remember that if you can't go outside, that 30 minutes that would be outside time needs to become indoor gross motor time. The children really need to exert this energy and exercise their body on a daily basis. Not only is it good for their physical being, but it is good for allowing them to stay more on target and focused and keep their behavior in check, because they're exerting some of that energy. Oftentimes teachers are not really intentional about their gross motor plans for the day. They just rely on outside time as being the opportunity for children to do this exercise and to practice these skills. It is really important that physical development is a planned part of your curriculum, and that you are thinking about where the children are developmentally in this arena, and that you are planning for them so that they can move to the next level, and helping them to understand that these motor skills will promote overall health and well-being. On page 126 in your textbook, there's a figure 31 chart that talks about baseline skills for the preschool level. It's a really interesting chart that I hope you'll really pay a little bit of attention to. Talks about locomotor skills, what they should be able to do as a prerequisite for each skill, and then what constitutes mastery of that skill. Just gives us a good idea as caregivers, a baseline for where the child is. And it also talks about manipulative movement and stability movement, things like balancing and stopping and starting when they're running, riding tricycles, things like throwing and catching under manipulative movement. So this is a really good chart for you to be able to refer back to when you are working with children and trying to plan for their gross motor development. On page 127, there's a bit of discussion at the top of the page about promoting physical health in children. And one of the studies show that only 2% of children who are inactive grow up to be physically active adults. And so if our children are inactive, most likely they're going to grow up to be inactive. And so it's really important for us as early childhood caregivers to set the stage and keep children active and fit in hopes of preventing not just childhood obesity, but promoting a lifetime of fitness for these children. We want to make sure that what we understand is that physical exercise and activity will help not only to maintain healthy bones and muscles and prevent things like high blood pressure and cholesterol issues or diabetes, but it reduces stress and it increases a child's attention span, even an adult's attention span. Children who are physically active and physically fit tend to be more academically successful, have a larger language base and social skills, and it helps them to feel really confident because as they achieve these various milestones in motor development, they begin to feel more confident and competent in what they are doing. And that's another set of reasons why it's so important for us to include physical development in our curriculum every day. Of course, the second part of motor development that we talked about earlier is fine motor, and these are the small muscles, things like fingers and hands and feet and eyes and the muscles of the face. These skills are often more difficult to master because they require stronger muscle control. They also require more patience and persistence and judgment and brain coordination. Children have to have a good foundation in large muscle skills before they're going to be able to really develop those fine motor skills. In order for the hands and fingers to work to do those tiny tasks, the child needs a stable torso and muscle control in their shoulders to function properly. So, just like gross motor though, fine motor is both sequential and predictable. Children go through generally the same stages in the same order, but at various times because each child develops at an individual pace. But by the age of 5, most of the children have such coordination that they're able to eat small foods like peas with a fork or use scissors to cut out materials. They're able to hold and turn the pages of a book, where younger children are not able to do those tasks. They're working on things like grasping or holding an object. So those are some things that we deal with when we're working with fine motor development. In your textbook on page 128, in figure 32, there is a chart of fine motor development from birth to age 5. And so it's separated by age: young infants, mobile infants, toddlers, younger preschoolers, and older preschoolers. And it gives many of the fine motor skills that will be developed during those ages. Now, some strategies to develop fine motor skills with your young infants is is making sure that you have space for them to move their body, arms, legs, feet, hands, lots of objects that are safe for them to practice grasping, objects that are interesting in their view so that they can look, reach for, hit at, or kick. Um, you want to make sure that you're not placing objects in their hands that are too big or before they're ready to grasp them, um, because when they have that uncontrollable movement of their arms, if they're holding something that they're not quite ready to hold, they may accidentally hit themselves with those things. For your mobile infants, providing lots of toys and materials that encourage fine motor skills like shape sorters, containers to insert and remove objects, things that fit together or fit inside or stack. It's important for us to play games with the children that encourage them to roll balls or throw or kick. Lots of books that they can handle independently, and room for them to move around and to explore. It's real important for you to give them an opportunity to be independent and try to feed themselves. Many 1-year-olds are already ready to start drinking from a cup if we provide the appropriate cups for them. Your toddlers, it's important for you to provide them lots of opportunities to play with their peers and to interact, and that there's lots of toys and materials provided for them to practice fine motor skills and eye-hand coordination, things like puzzles and pegboards, blocks, beads to string, clay or Play-Doh for modeling, lacing cards, bead mazes. Those things are all really important tools for them to practice those fine motor skills. For preschoolers, of course, you're addressing a larger range of skills and abilities, but how can you offer materials that meet all the differing skills and abilities is what you have to think about. Some children may only be able to work a 5-piece puzzle when others may be able to work a 25 or 50-piece puzzle, and so you have to have a variety to hit all your skill and developmental levels. Even though there is that wide variety, it's really important that you pay close attention to notice if there is a child who is not developing on target or is not showing those skills of eye-hand coordination or grasping objects. That way, if you notice that delay, you can start working with that child to exercise those fine motor skills. You may have to offer larger beads to string, or you may have to add knobs to puzzles or provide puzzles with knobs. You may have to replace buttons and zippers on dress-up clothes with Velcro for them to be able to be successful and work until they're at that next level. But what you want to do is let children choose activities that will match their skills so that they can build the confidence to move on and try more difficult tasks. What many caregivers aren't really aware of is that physical development is not a singular area of development in children. It actually is connected to the development of the whole child. When you think about if a child is building in the block area, when they're building, are they only using their motor skills, or are they using their cognitive skills to problem solve and figure out how to create what it is they're visualizing in their mind? Are they using social and emotional development then, especially if they're working with peers or communicating with peers as they're doing this building, which in turn is language development. If they're communicating with caregivers or other classmates. So it's an interconnected development. It's something that is involving all areas of their development. So it's really almost impossible to separate physical development from cognitive, social, emotional, language. Every time that a child is gaining a physical skill, it has some sort of impact on the other areas of development. Um, Brain research today proves that both gross and fine motor skills are closely related to brain development, and that um, activities such as skipping or fine motor abilities are connected to ability to read later on. And so it's really important for us to understand that we're not only encouraging this physical growth and development for a child's body to be fit and healthy, but for their minds to be fit and healthy and their social and emotional state to be fit and healthy. So it's something that is affecting the development of that entire child.